Vanderbilt opened the season as a core rotation piece, averaging 21 minutes per game in October, yet since November 15th, he hasn't stepped on the court, not due to injury, but as a healthy scratch. And with each game he sits, questions grow louder about what changed. The timing of Vanderbilt's disappearance is particularly striking. He had been providing exactly the kind of hustle and defensive intensity that championship teams require. His ability to guard multiple positions, crash the boards, and bring energy off the bench made him a valuable asset during the early weeks of the season, yet all of that suddenly became irrelevant once the rotation solidified around other players. Head coach JJ Redick addressed those questions head on. Speaking with reporters before the Suns matchup, Redick delivered a candid explanation for Vanderbilt's sudden disappearance from the rotation. According to the coach, the 26-year-old forward has simply not met the consistency standards set for his role. Redick was careful to emphasize that Vanderbilt has handled the situation with full professionalism. He praised Vanderbilt's attitude, his presence in team activities, and even highlighted his strong performance in a recent Stay Ready game. The forward has reportedly stayed engaged during practices, continued to support his teammates from the sideline, and maintained his conditioning despite the lack of game action. Still, professionalism alone isn't enough to guarantee minutes. Not on a roster trying to build an identity, and not under a coach determined to maintain structure. A major factor behind the decision is Redick's commitment to a streamlined 9-man rotation. In the modern NBA, tightening the rotation can stabilize roles, create rhythm, and simplify responsibilities. Players know exactly when they'll enter games, what their assignments will be, and how long they're expected to produce. For the Lakers, that group of 9 includes LeBron James, Rui Hachimura, DeAndre Ayton, Jackson Hayes, and Jake LaRavia among the frontcourt options, all players who bring specific skills the staff wants on the floor. With that many bigs in play, Redick admitted that a numbers crunch was unavoidable. Vanderbilt simply became the odd man out. But Redick also stressed that this is not a permanent verdict. Circumstances in the NBA can change quickly. Injuries, foul trouble, matchup problems, or a sudden shift in team performance can all reopen the rotation. One injury to a frontcourt player could immediately thrust Vanderbilt back into meaningful minutes. And now that the Lakers' win streak has come to an abrupt end, the coaching staff may revisit those decisions sooner rather than later. Redick's frustration on Monday night was unmistakable. The Lakers looked flat, unfocused, and disconnected. In a blunt assessment, he said it seemed as if the monsters took over the players you've been coaching, referencing the famous Space Jam villains. That kind of comment doesn't come lightly. It signals that Redick is demanding urgency, not just from the 9 players on the floor, but from the entire roster, including those waiting for a chance to return. For Vanderbilt, that chance might come sooner than expected. His defensive energy, rebounding, and versatility once made him a key piece for this team. If the Lakers continue to struggle with intensity or physicality, his tools may become valuable again, especially against more athletic or aggressive opponents. Teams with quick, switchable wings have given the Lakers problems all season, and Vanderbilt's ability to chase those types of players around screens could prove essential in playoff-style matchups. But for now, his status remains unchanged. Outside the rotation, watching from the sidelines, staying ready for the moment his name is called. Redick has made it clear that the opportunity will eventually come, but earning it requires meeting the standards set long before LeBron returned. The Lakers will attempt to regroup and reset their mindset on Thursday when they face the Toronto Raptors at 4:30 p.m. PST. The question now is whether this embarrassing loss will push the team toward necessary adjustments, and whether Jared Vanderbilt will be part of those plans moving forward. While Vanderbilt's situation raises questions about the rotation, LeBron James himself became the center of controversy for entirely different reasons during that same blowout loss to Phoenix. And this time, it had nothing to do with his role in the lineup. James added another chapter to one of the most unbreakable streaks in professional sports on Monday night, recording his 297th straight game with at least 10 points. The streak itself is a monument to consistency, durability, and sustained excellence across nearly 2 decades. But this time, the milestone came wrapped in scrutiny and sharp media criticism that cut deeper than usual. Throughout the night, the offense stalled, defensive rotations broke down, and Phoenix controlled the game from start to finish. The Suns moved the ball with precision, attacked mismatches relentlessly, and built a lead that felt insurmountable by halftime. Yet, even as the scoreboard showed a deficit of more than 20 points with 7 minutes remaining, LeBron James stayed on the floor, long after most stars would have been pulled in a blowout. What drew attention wasn't just the decision itself, but the motive behind it. James appeared laser-focused on reaching double digits to extend his streak, a mark he has preserved for nearly 2 decades. With 6:51 remaining, he knocked down a deep three, lifting his total to exactly 10 points. Only then did he begin making his way toward the bench, checking out a few possessions later as the outcome was no longer in doubt. The sequence felt deliberate, calculated, and for many watching, it raised uncomfortable questions about priorities in a game that had already slipped away. By the final buzzer, his stat line told an unusual story: 10 points, 3 assists, 0 rebounds, a rare combination for the 40-year-old superstar known for producing all-around numbers even on off nights. The 0 rebounds stood out particularly starkly, given that James has built much of his reputation on filling the stat sheet regardless of how his shot is falling. His limited output quickly became a talking point across sports shows, radio programs, and social media, with many noting that this was one of the most subdued performances of his career. Former NBA forward Chandler Parsons was among the most vocal critics. Speaking on FanDuel TV's Run It Back, Parsons made it clear that something felt different about James's performance, not just in the numbers, but in the body language, the engagement level, and the overall presence on the court. This was the first time I've ever seen an older LeBron James who actually looked like his age, Parsons said. After sitting out against New Orleans the night before, I expected him to come out aggressive, to take over, to dominate possession, but he didn't look like himself at all, and that's something I've never said about him. Parsons went even further, suggesting that the decision to stay in the game purely to chase the 10-point streak sent the wrong message about priorities. The optics, he argued, were damaging, not just for James personally, but for the team's culture and the standards they're trying to establish under a first-year head coach. He argued that James's presence on the court, long after the result was essentially sealed, felt more like a pursuit of a personal achievement than a contribution to the team's competitiveness. It was respectful of Redick to leave him in, but it was obvious LeBron wasn't coming out until he got those 10 points, Parsons said. To me, this felt like the beginning of the final chapter, focusing on legacy instead of the moment, instead of the season, instead of the game that was already decided. The comments resonated across the basketball world because they came from someone who played against James, not just a media figure offering hot takes for clicks. Parsons' critique tapped into a broader question many fans have started asking. How long can LeBron continue performing at an elite level in his record-setting 23rd NBA season? The Lakers, who had built momentum with a 7-game winning streak, suddenly found themselves facing tough questions after the loss. 4 of those wins came with James in the lineup, further magnifying the impact of his subdued showing against Phoenix. The streak had felt like validation that the team was finally finding its identity, that the pieces were coming together at the right time. Despite his age, James had been averaging 15.2 points, 4 rebounds, and 7.2 assists. Numbers that, while far from his prime, still reflect significant production for a player of his mileage. Still, the optics of the Suns' game linger. For some, it was simply an off night, the kind every player experiences over the course of an 82-game season. For others, it signaled a shift. The moment when LeBron James finally looked human, looked slower, looked like a player battling not just opponents, but time itself. Yet one thing remains true: few athletes have carried expectations as heavy as James has for more than 2 decades. Every decision he makes, every possession he plays, every stat he records becomes subject to intense debate. The burden of being LeBron James means never being allowed the luxury of an anonymous performance. James will now attempt to redirect the narrative on Thursday when the Lakers face the Toronto Raptors at 4:30 p.m. PST. A chance to quiet critics, reassert control, and prove that Monday's performance was an exception, not a trend. But after Chandler Parsons' pointed comments, the spotlight on LeBron James will be brighter than ever, not because of what he accomplished, but because of how he looked while doing it. Beyond the rotation questions and individual performances, the Lakers face a more fundamental problem that threatens their championship aspirations: rim protection. And this issue extends far beyond any single game or performance. DeAndre Ayton has delivered solid production since arriving in Los Angeles, offering a steady scoring presence and reliability around the basket. His mid-range game has been efficient, his ability to finish around the rim has been consistent, and his offensive rebounding has provided second-chance opportunities. But despite his contributions on the offensive end, the Lakers continue to struggle in defending the paint. The numbers tell a blunt story. Only the Sacramento Kings and New Orleans Pelicans perform worse in defending shots within 6 feet. For a franchise that aims to compete at the highest level in the Western Conference, that deficiency stands out like a warning flare. The problem becomes even more glaring when you consider the Lakers' perimeter defense. Right now, that presence simply doesn't exist at a high enough level. And that's why league insiders believe the Lakers might be preparing to make a significant frontcourt addition before the February trade deadline. According to reporting from Brett Siegel at Clutch Points, one name continues to circulate prominently around the organization: Brooklyn Nets center Nic Claxton. Los Angeles has reportedly monitored Claxton for over a year, viewing him as a potential long-term pillar who fits exactly what the roster lacks. The front office has done extensive film study, tracked his development closely, and maintained contact with Brooklyn's organization to gauge availability. Siegel explains, Claxton has remained high on the Lakers' wish list dating back to last season. He's positioned as one of the most coveted center trade candidates leading into February. And that comment echoes what many around the league are already thinking. The Lakers' interest is real, and the timing might finally be right. From a basketball standpoint, Claxton checks off multiple boxes. While he doesn't offer the same polished offensive arsenal that Ayton brings, Ayton remains the more refined scorer with a smoother shooting touch and better post moves. Claxton provides something far more pressing for LA: explosive athleticism, elite length, and natural shot blocking instincts. At 26 years old, he has emerged as one of the most disruptive defensive centers in the league, capable of switching onto guards, challenging shots above the rim, and bringing an energy that would instantly elevate the Lakers' interior presence. His defensive versatility is particularly valuable in today's NBA. Claxton can step out to the perimeter without compromising his ability to protect the rim, a rare combination that allows teams to play multiple defensive coverages without substituting. His quick feet and long wingspan make him a nightmare for opposing offenses trying to attack the basket. And when you imagine Claxton running the floor with Luka, Dončić, LeBron James, and Austin Reeves, the fit becomes even clearer. The Lakers thrive when they can play fast, and Claxton's mobility allows him to keep pace in transition, finish lobs, and pressure defenses without needing plays specifically drawn for him. His game complements the stars around him instead of competing with them. He doesn't need touches in the post to be effective, which means the offensive system can continue flowing through the playmakers while Claxton provides energy and efficiency in the dunker spot. Contractually, the opportunity makes even more sense. Claxton is secured through the 2028-29 season and will earn under $25 million annually over the next 2 years, a bargain considering his age, production, and upward trajectory. Very few starting centers with his defensive impact come at that price, making him a rare trade target who offers both immediate value and long-term affordability. In a league where role players are commanding $15 to $20 million per year, Claxton's contract looks like a steal for what he provides. But the real challenge lies in constructing a package that appeals to Brooklyn. To match salaries, the Lakers would likely need to part with Rui Hachimura and rookie Dalton Knecht, two pieces the organization values. Hachimura has provided consistent scoring and defensive versatility, while Knecht represents potential future value as a young player on a cost-controlled rookie deal. Beyond that, Brooklyn would almost certainly demand future draft capital, first-rounders or pick swaps, to justify moving a 26-year-old center who could anchor a defense for years. The Nets' current situation adds another layer of intrigue. With the team struggling and nowhere near contention, the franchise may soon shift its focus toward collecting assets and retooling for the future. Brooklyn's front office has already shown a willingness to make bold moves, and if they determine that rebuilding around younger pieces makes more sense than holding on to veterans, the trade market could open up quickly. If Brooklyn commits to that path, veterans like Claxton suddenly become much more obtainable. And if the Nets do open the door, the Lakers will be one of the first teams to walk through it. For now, the situation remains fluid, but the logic behind the move is clear. Los Angeles needs rim protection. They need defensive physicality. They need a center who can anchor the paint and relieve pressure from the perimeter defenders. Nic Claxton fits that mold almost perfectly. And with the trade deadline approaching, the Lakers may soon have to decide whether to push their chips in and finally secure the interior presence they've been missing all season. The next few weeks will reveal whether Rob Pelinka and the Lakers front office are willing to make the necessary sacrifices to address their most glaring weakness.